I want you guys to start prepping for what's next because the central banks, right? If you guys has been following me, you've been watching my videos. When I'm talking about the macro economics, right? The Federal Reserve is looking to change their cycle. And these macro changes, they can't do it unless there is a big problem, right? And a lot of the times, the problem is going to be very bad, right? Just think of 2020, 2008. We're going to have to see something break in the economy so that the central banks could do quantitative easing, right? Stimulus to help people. But if you understand that this is going to happen, you can start prepping yourself now, right? Because you guys know, we pay attention to the government shutdown. You could already see a lot of people are panicking, right? We're going to see like people's food stamps is getting cut off. People is not going to be making money. Jobs is not going to be hiring, right? You could prep for all of this before it actually happens. And it's just an endless cycle that's just going to go along for years and years and years. But when you understand this stuff, right, especially for us as traders, we're able to prep it. But if you know that this is going to come, you're going to start managing your finances differently, right? You can start helping other people. Like the goal for me right now is to help you guys prep for these scenarios because I don't want you guys struggling out there when the information is right in front of you. You just got to seek it. Okay. So when it comes down to the central banks, we already got the news that JP Morgan is expecting for this rate this week, the Federal Reserve to start ending quantitative tightening. We already see that the banking sectors, right, they're dealing with credit tightness, right? People not taking out loans, they're not even paying back their loans. We're seeing auto loans is taking a hit. So when we see that businesses is not taking out loans, businesses is not going to expand. High interest rates, right? That also impacts the reasons for people to not take out loans. We can see that jobs is not going to hire. When you understand this stuff, right, this is what gives you an edge moving forward because the markets is forward looking, guys. It's scary. And I know it's scary for a lot, especially for us in America, right? You know, especially if the Federal Reserve does quantitative easing, if they ever even plan to, that could spike inflation again. And inflation is at 3% right now, right? It's gonna get scary, right? But when you learn this information, you can start prepping for it. And that's the goal because when you start learning the right information, don't follow news because news is just fear mongering. But how come the wealthy, they know what's happening and they use this as an opportunity to better their wealth? This is where the gap comes in, right? From poor to wealthy. Because we focus on news headlines all the time that we don't even pay attention to, man, how can I profit from this? But instead, we look at it from a scarcity perspective. This is why understanding this information is so key, guys. This was the biggest change even in my life, right? So, what you guys want to focus on this week? The Federal Reserve. They're most likely going to be cutting interest rates, but we dealing with the government shutdown. The government shutdown is messing up the Fed's visibility to track how economic data is going, right? So if they don't know what's going on with job data, which is their main focus to see if inflation is coming down and also to track growth, they're most likely going to be patient. Why are they going to cut rates aggressively if they can't see the data? So the government shutdown is not affecting the markets at the moment. But if this continues to go long term, that's where the stock markets is going to look at it from a growth fear, right? Because growth is going to get impacted because the government isn't stimulating the US, right? They're stopping jobs. We already see that. We see that airlines is taking an impact, right? The stimulus is not coming out. So GDP is going to start taking a hit. This is where something might break in the economy, right? This is where we could possibly see this is going to be the reason for the Federal Reserve to come out and say, okay, we need to step in and help. I feel like this government shutdown was for it's for a reason. It's not like it's by surprise. I think if they're in the mood, if they want the feds to start cutting rates aggressively, why not shut down the government, right? Because that kind of force that gives them no chance to pausing rates. They're gonna have to cut eventually, right? Especially when it comes to the White House, like the United States, their debt is extremely high. They're not even paying back the debt to the central banks, right? So when we got all these problems, there's only one direction the markets could go, right? So this is why when you look at gold, why is gold at all-time highs, right? Because gold rising because they know something is broken. They know that there's a fear something is about to happen. But most people is going to cancel that out and say, "Oh, but look at equities is hitting all-time highs." Well, what do you think the equity markets is probably a little bit inflated, right? I don't feel like the stock market is rising because of economic indicators for these stock companies. I think it's just all hype, right? And most of the rise is from the tech hype. But eventually one of them has to give. It's either gold has to push lower or equities has to push lower. So we have to see one of them give. Either we're going to see that everything is perfectly fine, we're going to have a soft landing, growth is still good, the credit problem is good, then we're going to see gold is going to push lower, or we're going to see that no, something extremely bad is going on. Oh, something is breaking. We're going to start finally seeing the equity markets push lower as those growth fears come out. I think we're going to have to see one of them things happen. And that's going to be scary because most people is probably predicting a drop in the stock market because we need slower growth. We need the stock market to drop, right? We need people to lose their jobs, right? This is what's going to help lower inflation. And then growth fears is also going to help the feds cut interest rates and then also give them the reason to stimulate the economy so that we can start paying back our debt. The problem is that the feds can't just say, "Hey guys, we're gonna make your life extremely hard." So we're gonna have to make. So what's gonna happen in the next few months is that you're gonna lose your job. Prices is gonna be high, right? Rent's gonna be high. We're gonna make your cost of living super difficult because in order for us to save the economy, you have to go through struggles. They're not gonna do that, right? So this is why they need to create something like a crisis in order to start quantitative easing. Okay. So that's why I think it's no coincidence that this shutdown is happening and why now, right? Because I don't like to focus on the news a lot, but when I listen to some of the things, it just doesn't make sense to cause people to struggle unless you have a bigger plan behind it. And we always knew that the White House is doing this because they want Jerome Powell to cut interest rates. So hopefully this is helpful for you guys, right? Because this is why weeks like this is extremely important. Because if you could pay attention to the language that he's saying, right? So imagine if Jerome Powell comes out and says, we're going to cut interest rates, but forward guidance, we're going to be a little more patient because of government shutdown, right? That could cause dollar to rise. That could cause equities to push lower. So this is why this week is going to be extremely important because of this government shutdown affecting their visibility. But I hope that this helps clears a little bit of what's going on in like simple terms, right? Because if you listen into the news, they may try to overcomplicate it. Okay, guys? Just giving a quick video for you guys for the week. Hopefully you guys enjoy it. Have a good one.